welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Toledo on July 5th, 2026. My name is Karen Christie, and I am the service leader today. Our service leader is Joe Moran, rather than myself. I'm the service associate. Jeffrey Maxey is our music director leading the choir, and Riker Davis will be reading the story. Bringing this service to you live and by YouTube is our solo tech crew member, Jeff Slauson. And I see Reverend Tim is back there too. Yes, he deserves a big hand. We are all called to lead and make Sunday services in this church building, so there are many more volunteer leaders, greeters in the lobby, religious educators for activities with children and adults, and the kitchen crew helping to prepare for coffee hour. Love is the centering value of this church community. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We welcome everyone as we sang in our opening song. If you are a visitor, you may notice in the pew rack in front of you a yellow card that helps us to know who our seekers are. So please fill that out and join us at coffee hour. We also welcome those of you who are joining us on Toledo Unitarians' YouTube channel. Let us create this time to serve our spirits.
Oh, beautiful, offer spacious skies for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plain. America, oh America, God shed his grace on thee. And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, oh, I love you, America. God done shed his grace on thee. Yes, oh, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Shining sea.
I would ask you now to prepare to join me in the chalice lighting in unison. It's in the order of service in your program. Our chalice has the spirit of Unitarian Universalism. We light it centered in love. May it glow with sacredness and shine for each and for all.
Now, please join me in reciting our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now please join in singing hymn number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Thanks.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can vain. I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor a port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I traveled, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. Lifting here with my ship's companions, are we kindred pilgrim souls, the making our way by the light of the heavens and the beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, with the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I traveled, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Children to come up and join us? Anybody want to listen?
Love Without Boundaries by Chrissy Olson and Lynn Kerr. I don't want to go, said 6-year-old Reuben with his hands placed firmly on his hips. Don't want to go where, Reuben's dad, Nick, asked as he rolled back on his heels from where he was kneeling in the rosebed. To the playground picnic, Reuben said. I thought you wanted to see all your playground friends. We just baked cookies and made sandwiches, his father said. I don't want to go because everyone will be there with their families, said Reuben. Our family doesn't have it, Mom, and I don't really have sisters and brothers. We aren't a real family, Reuben, said his father. It sounds like you're worried about what others think. We are a family, and so are the others you mentioned. There are all kinds of families. Let's go to the playground and see what we notice about different and the same families are. How different and the same families are. Do we have to? Reuben asked. Yes, we do, said Nick. So Reuben and Nick walked down to the playground, and Reuben peeked through the playground fence. The playground was busy with a lot of people. Some he knew and some he didn't. They spread their picnic blanket on the ground by a newly planted tree. Reuben munched on a sandwich while he looked over the crowd. There was Hannah with her grandpa and grandma. Hannah and her brother were living with her grandparents. Their parents served in the military overseas. A young mom named Nancy helped her triplets get a drink of water at the fountain. Nancy brought the triplets to a playground each day while she was working at home. Sometimes she flew to other places for work, and then the babysitter brought the babies to play. Ralph, Reuben's best playground friend, came running over and yelled, Hey, Reuben, I want you to meet my dads. Dads? Asked Reuben. How'd you get two of them? Just lucky, Ralph grinned. Reuben's dad smiled at Ralph and shook his hands with both of Ralph's dad, Marcello and Clyde. Later that night, Reuben and his dad walked home in silence. They sat on a bench and Nick asked a question. So, Reuben, what did you learn tonight? Reuben took a deep breath. I learned that all families are different and all families can have fun. I learned that sometimes you have to do things you're not sure will turn out okay. Good job, said Nick, but there's one other message I'd like you to learn about tonight. I'd look at the rose bed, and what does it need to grow? It needs water and sun and dirt, said Reuben, not quite sure of the connections between the rose bushes and families. The rose needs love too, said Nick gently. Even with the basics, the rose will still need weeding and fertilizer and mulching to keep it safe. I get it, Dad, exclaimed Reuben. I love grows all kinds of families. You got it, Reuben. No matter the color, shape, or size of the family, love helps it grow.
Thank you, Riker. Let's sing for the children now as they go to their individual classes with their teachers. As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go enjoy, go enjoy. And bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Live in love, go in love. At this point in our Sunday service, we come together in spiritual practice for Beyond Ourselves, a pastoral prayer. Join me for a time of having our spirits open to what is beyond ourselves. We consider celebrations and sorrows and the state of things, including how the world is and how we wish it would be. That includes government and politics, journalism of joy, tragic news, the going on of events, people and societies, cultures that we have some connection with, admiration for or wariness of, but we feel we need to know. Though the world in some ways, especially our nation, is in an extended time of trouble, there's also a call for kindness, compassion, and personal peace. May the way we live be part of making this a better world. We're grateful to know that even though it was a bare minimum decision, the Supreme Court struck down the president's order to eliminate birthright citizenship, which has been enshrined in our Constitution since 1868. And I'm afraid the president was mistaken in saying the United States was the only nation to have it. In fact, 35 nations have birthright citizenship, including our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. And in our own lives, we have bad days and we have good days. May we be compassionate to all, as we do not know what other people are going through. So treat each other well. May we be glad for the celebrations and accomplishments of others, and be empathetic to their struggles and concerns. Walter McGee remains at Abed Northwest Ohio Hospice. Joyce and I visited him Wednesday. He was in good spirits. Walter accepts calls and visits, enjoys getting together, reminiscing about his life, and continues to create memories, taking one day at a time. Carla Logan Mercer is at home recovering from her surgery and follow-up procedures. We send Carla healing thoughts. David Quire, husband of Sierra Webb, you may know, passed away on June 26. At this time, we have no additional information as far as a memorial service. Please view his obituary for more information about his life and family, and perhaps a visit to his food truck, Non-Stop Kebab, would be fitting tribute for him now. Our heartfelt concern and sympathy goes out to Sierra and their families during this difficult time. There's so much we can all do for goodness and friendliness, for living the golden rule. Lead in this way when you can, and please share mercy and dignity. One of the reasons that we join in religious gatherings like this is to realize our common link. We know that uncommonness is here as well. We celebrate likeness and difference. Let's be together in faith, hope, and love, and community. And remember to breathe. That natural action can be spiritual. Let's continue to have First Unitarian Church of Toledo be a place of welcome, of grace, even of refuge from hard times. And in this liberal religious community, we can help one another, care for ourselves, and have a part in changing our world. Thank you, Jeffrey. At this point in our service, we enter a time of turning within. Long before Albert Schweitzer coined the phrase reverence for life, the native people that occupied this land practice reverence for life. In this turning within, I share the words of Lakota Chief Luther Standing Bear. It will be followed by 1 minute of silence, in which I'd urge us all to consider the ways we as a society and individuals have failed to show reverence for life. Ways we're trying to repair the harm and the work we have yet to do. And here I find the great distinction between the faith of the Indian and the white man. Indian faith sought harmony of man with his surroundings. For us, there was no wilderness. Nature was not a dangerous place, but a hospitable one, not forbidding, but friendly. But the white man sought the dominance of his surroundings. There was no such thing as emptiness in the Lakota world. Even in the sky, there were no vacant places. Everywhere, there was life, visible and invisible, and every object possessed something that would be good for us to have, even to the very stones. Kinship with all creatures of the earth and the sky, the water, were a real and active principle for us. In the animal and bird world, there existed a brotherly feeling that kept us safe among them. The animals had rights, the rights of man's protection, the right to live, the right to multiply, the right to freedom, the right to man's indebtedness. This concept of life and its relation filled us with joy and the mystery of living. It gave us a reverence for all life. It made a place for all things in the scheme of existence with equal importance to all. 1 minute of silence.
The reading for today is the first of the 5 mindfulness trainings or Buddhist precepts from the Thich Nhat Hanh Plum Village tradition. The mindfulness trainings represent a Buddhist vision for a global spirituality and ethic. The first precept, reverence for life. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing and compassion and learning ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world, in my thinking, or in my way of life. Seeing that harmful actions arise from anger, fear, greed, and intolerance, which in turn come from dualistic and discriminative thinking, I will cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, and dogmatism in myself and in the world.
Thank you, Karen. Well, I want to begin by clarifying something about my sermon today. The sermon is about reverence for a weed, not reverence for weed. I want to make sure I clarify that. Someone asked me about that. I'm sure that many of you here or watching our YouTube have a garden or have done gardening at some point in your life. And if you do or have, you know the importance of weeding your garden. But weeds are pesky things, and they don't give up easily. Every summer I have a especially resistant weed that grows between the cracks of one of my sidewalks. And every summer or spring I spray it, and it looks like it's dead, and then I find the next spring, of course, it's popped right back up and healthier than ever. And last year, my wife and I were in Italy, in Sicily, Italy, and we went to some Greek ruins that go back over 500 BC, and up in these tall columns, there was a weed growing, or several weeds growing, and beautiful flowers coming from it. So weeds they're hardy, and they'll grow in the most inhospitable places in the world. They grow and thrive. And although weeds are not typically celebrated, I want to thank Paul Kemner back there for reminding me that for some years Toledo had a Christmas weed celebration. Some of you may be aware of it. I actually went there to see whether it was still there on the corner of Secor and Alexis, but of course it's not Christmas, so maybe they just bring it in for Christmas. So where does the reverence for weed come in? Well, it's from the philosophy of one of the most remarkable and distinguished people in the 20th century, as far as I'm concerned, a man who died in 1965, so was roughly contemporary with some of us, a man that I remember from a paper that we used to get in my public school days called the Weekly Reader, and maybe some of you remember that. And a man who I rediscovered in 2008, with kind of a challenging time in my life, someone I really think had part in me joining this church. That person was Albert Schweitzer. Schweitzer was not only, his picture is in the front here, he was not only an accomplished and celebrated theologian, philosopher, musician. By the age of 29, in his early 30s, he went to medical school and became a doctor specializing in tropical medicine. And from there, he spent the next 50 years in the hospital he founded in the Republic of the Congo. And despite all these amazing credentials that Schweitzer had, he's best known for his philosophy of life, summed up in the words, reverence for life. And now you see where the reverence for weeds come in. So I should add that Schweitzer was not without his critics. That was a topic for another time. But I remember the words of one of his biographers, who happened to be a Unitarian Universalist, Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins said, "You do not have to be a saint to be an angel." Several years ago, I gave much the same sermon I'm giving today, with one major exception. Some here may recall that sermon. I dressed up as much as I could look like Albert Schweitzer, okay? I wore a high collar shirt, black bow tie, put on a fake bushy mustache, and the problem was the mustache kept falling off. It created a lot of laughs. It was hilarious. I finally tossed it back here at some point and realized that his words were more important than his appearance. So today I'm repeating much of the sermon as if I were Schweitzer, minus the costume. While Schweitzer spoke passable English and may have begun to talk a greeting in English, he may have reverted to his native German and used an interpreter. And I'm not going to, I could, but I won't make you suffer my German here, but just simply say, I'm going to start as he would. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be speaking at First Unitarian Church of Toledo. Let me say at the start, I have great admiration for Unitarian Universalism. Your Unitarian Service Committee was active in collecting money for my hospital during the World War I. And in 1961, George Marshall, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship in Boston, invited me to be an honorary member of your church, and I accepted with gratitude. As a student, I studied the history of Unitarianism and Universalism. Gradually, I came into closer contact with your communities and became familiar with your faith and action. Therefore, I'm honored to be recognized as a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church. My goal for our brief time this morning is to share some of the essence of the philosophy that's guided me for over 60 years through excerpts from my autobiography and from other publications, including my principal biographer, James Brabazon. The philosophy and the work is contained in the words in English, as I said, reverence for life, or in German, 4 words, Erfurcht vor dem Leben. And when I use these words, I'm using them in the broadest sense possible, as I will explain. At the gymnasium, roughly the equivalent of your high school in the United States, I was chiefly interested in history and natural science, but I also studied Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. In 1893, I passed my final examinations, and shortly after, I had the privilege of organ instruction by a renowned Parisian organist, Charles Marie Widor. I studied under Widor until I entered the University of Strasbourg to study theology and philosophy. My years in Strasbourg passed by quickly, and after receiving my doctorate in philosophy, I obtained a post as an assistant vicar at St. Nikolai Church in Strasbourg and began my work on my theological doctoral dissertation and a study of primitive Christianity. I use this research for my publication of The Quest for the Historical Jesus. As my research on Jesus became gradually known, the satisfaction I felt about solving so many historical riddles was accompanied by an awareness that this knowledge would increase unrest and difficulty for the piety of many Christians. I comforted myself with the words of St. Paul, though. We can do nothing for the truth, but for the truth. Truth is under all circumstances more valuable than non-truth. Religion, therefore, has nothing to fear from a confrontation with historical truth. Christianity finds itself in a difficult position today by pursuing the historical truth because it's been neglected again and again. For example, we find ourselves in an awkward position because the early Christians published writings of the apostles without being sure of their authenticity. In October 1905, I dropped into the mailbox in Paris, France, a letter to my parents and some close friends telling them in the winter term I would embark on the study of medicine with the eventual goal of practicing medicine in equatorial Africa. The plan has been in my mind for some period of time. Long ago in my student days, it struck me as inconceivable that I should be allowed to lead such a happy life when I saw so many people around me struggling with sorrow, suffering. I could not help but think how those denied my good fortune by their material circumstances, how beneficial I had been. I concluded that until I was the age 30, I was justified in devoting myself to scholarship, the arts, but after that, I would devote the rest of my life to serving humanity. What the character of my future activities would be, I was not sure. Only one thing was clear: it must be direct public service. Then one morning in the autumn of 1904, I found on the seminary table a magazine entitled The Paris Missionary Society, and on it was an article titled The Needs of the Congo Mission, and my search was over. Relatives and friends reproached me for the folly of my enterprise. They said I was a man who was bearing his talent and trading it for false currency. In many debates about this, I had to endure with people who passed for Christians, and it amazed me to see them unable to perceive my desire to serve the love preached by the same Jesus they worshiped on Sunday morning. I know from experience that there are worthy people and capable people who have had to renounce a course of action that would have been great value to society because their circumstances made it impossible. So those of us who were given the chance to embark on a life of service must accept their good fortune with humility. They must think of those who equally were willing and capable could not do the same. Of all the will toward the ideal in mankind, only a small part can manifest itself in public action. All the rest of this force must be content with small and obscure deeds. But the sum of those deeds, however, is 1,000 times stronger than the acts of those who receive public recognition. Hidden forces of goodness are alive in those who serve humanity as a secondary pursuit and cannot devote their full life to it. Everyone in his own environment must strive to practice compassion toward others. Our future of our world depends on it. I wanted to be a doctor so that I might be able to work without talking. For years, I've been giving myself in words, but this new form of activity would not consist of preaching love, but practicing it. As you may know, at the beginning of the 19th century, certain Orthodox Christian circles formed to preach the gospel in the so-called pagan third world. I learned orthodoxy playing the same role in the Paris Missionary Society, and I was told that there would be serious objections to me going to Africa because of my liberal stance. I gave the assurance I wanted to come merely as a doctor, and was told that some would object to the acceptance of a doctor that did not adhere to the correct Christian doctrine. I was curious to see if a missionary society could possibly refuse the services of a doctor to a suffering population simply because they had the opinion he was not sufficiently orthodox. On one of the closing days then of October 1905, I set out in the thick fog to attend the first of my lectures on anatomy. And in October, 5 years later, in 1910, I took the state medical bar, and on December 2nd, after the last exam, I strode out of the hospital, unable to grasp the fact that I had completed my medical studies. They were now behind me. When I was certain that I could collect enough funds to establish a small hospital, I approached the Paris Missionary Society again, and I talked to its superintendent. And he argued for my services, but the strictly Orthodox objected. In the end, my offer of services was accepted on condition that I did everything possible to avoid offending the missionaries and the faith of their converts. And I assured them I would come only as a doctor, and on every other topic, I would be as dumb as a carp. And so, on the afternoon of Good Friday, 1913, my wife Helene and I embarked from Gunzbach, and on March 26, we embarked again from Bordeaux for Africa. And at our little destination in Lamborghini, The missionaries had not been able to erect the little buildings in which I was to begin my practice, so it began in a chicken coop. And I had to use that as my consulting room. From the very first day, I was besieged by sick people, and the choice of Lamborghini proved to be a correct one. Up and down the Galway River, people could be brought to me up and downstream, and they could be brought to me in canoes. In conversation with the natives, I found they were far more interested in elemental questions of the meaning of life and the nature of good and evil than any questions they had about Christian dogma. To be understood by their listeners, missionaries could do nothing more than preaching the simple gospel of Jesus. While I did not make any attempt to disturb them with my views, not many months after my arrival, they asked me to preach, and I was released from my earlier promise. On one such occasion, when a worthy matron, I would put her to the question of whether Jesus had been rich or poor, she replied, "What a stupid question, doctor. If God, the great chief, was his father, he certainly couldn't have been poor." After completing the second season in Africa and making plans for a trip home, we received the news on August 5th, 1914, that World War I had broken out, and we must consider ourselves prisoners of war. While I was forbidden to work at the hospital, I began work on my book, The Philosophy of Civilization. Since my first years at the university, I've grown to doubt the idea that mankind is steadily moving toward improvement. I've grown to doubt it. The essential element in all civilization is the ethical perfecting of the individual as well as society. Despite the great importance that we attach to achievement in science, technology, and material progress, only a humanity that is striving for ethical ends can benefit from material progress and not be overcome by the dangers of it. I remain convinced that the ethics and affirmation of life are interdependent and preconditions for true civilization. For months I pondered the question of the affirmation of life and ethics and what they had in common. And while in this mental state, I was called out to visit the wife of an ailing missionary. Slowly, we crept upstream on the Galway River, lost in thought as the barge traveled down the river. I covered sheet after sheet with disconnected sentences, trying to concentrate on the connection. 2 days passed, and on the third day, as we were making our way through a herd of hippopotamuses, it flashed upon my mind, unforeseen and unsought, the phrase, reverence for life. The iron door had yielded, and I had found a way to principle, into which the principle, which the affirmation of world and ethics are joined together. The philosophy of reverence for life takes the world as it is, and the world means the horrible with the glorious, the meaningless and the fullness of life, the sorrowful and the joyful. Whatever our own point of view, the world will remain an enigma. But that does not mean that we have to renounce all hope of seeing the course of the world events as having any meaning. Reverence for life leads us to a spiritual relationship with the world independent of our full knowledge of the world. We're not obligated to derive our ethical view from knowledge of the universe. It's not through knowledge, but through experience of the world that we are brought into a relationship with it. The truly religious person no longer expects religion to provide complete answers to the metaphysical world. Such a person still wrestles with the great questions. What is the meaning of life? Why do bad things happen to good people? How is the spiritual dimension of life related? In what sense is our existence transitory and eternal? Yet the truly religious person can leave these questions unanswered, however painful that may be. I learned long ago that the deeper the piety, the humbler its claims to metaphysical knowledge. In the epilogue to my autobiography, I make these parting comments. In the time remaining in my life, I want to work in this world to help people think more deeply and more independently, and for this reason, I'm honored to be associated with the Unitarian faith. I am in complete disagreement with the spirit of our age because it's filled with contempt for thought. Today, in addition to neglect of thought, there's also a mistrust of thought. The organized political, social, and religious institutions of our time are at work convincing the individual not to develop his or her own convictions through thinking, but to accept ideas as they're presented by the authorities. Anyone who thinks for himself is viewed as inconvenient and even dangerous. Man today lives in an atmosphere of intellectual dependence. From every side, it's hammered into him that the truths and convictions he needs to live by are predetermined. In spite of this great technological achievements and material possessions, man today is an altogether stunted being. In this period that ridicules as outdated and without value rational independent thought, and which even mocks the inalienable rights proclaimed by the 18th century Enlightenment, I declare myself one who places all confidence in rational thought. To blindly accept the truth that one is never reflected upon retards the advance of humanity. Reverence for Life offers a realistic answer to the question of how man and the universe are related. Now, some object that this sets too high a value on all life because it establishes no dividing line between higher life and lower life. This is true and has its reasons. To establish universally valid distinctions between all kinds of life will end up judging them by the greater or lesser distance they are to ourselves. Our own judgments, however, are purely subjective. Who among us knows what significance any other life has in the part of the universe? When we accept the distinction between higher and lower life, there comes the view that there can be the life that is worthless and which can be willfully destroyed. In the category of worthless life, some may classify various kinds of plants, weeds, insects, animals, and perhaps inferior people. And remember, I'm saying this against the backdrop of fascism. But to the person that's truly ethical, all life is sacred, including that which from the human viewpoint is less or seems lower. Man must make distinctions only as each case comes before him to decide which of two lives he must sacrifice in order to preserve another. But through that decision, he becomes forcibly conscious that he and no other person bears a responsibility for the life that's being destroyed. Let me share an example. Some time ago, I bought from some villagers a young osprey. They caught it on a sandbank, and I rescued it from them because I knew of their cruel intentions. But then I had to decide whether I should let it starve or kill several small fishes each day to keep it alive. I decided upon the latter. But every day the responsibility to sacrifice one life for another brought me reflection and pain. Touched by the ethic of life, reverence for life, man injures and destroys life only under necessity he cannot avoid, never through thoughtlessness. Empathy with animals is an obligation no thinking person can escape. So I ask you, will the time ever come when public opinion will no longer tolerate popular amusements that rely on the maltreatment of animals? Very little of the great cruelty shown to animals by men can really be attributed to cruel instinct. Most of it comes from thoughtlessness or inherited habit. The time must come when humanity, protected by custom and thoughtlessness, will succumb before humanity championed by thought and empathy. Man can no longer live by himself. We must realize that all life is valuable, that we are therefore united to all life. From this knowledge comes our spiritual relationship with the entire universe. The friend of nature is the man who feels himself inwardly united with everything that lives in nature, who shares in the fate of all creatures, helps them when he can in their pain and need, and as far as possible, avoids injuring them. Anyone who has accustomed himself to regard life of any creature as worthless is in danger of arriving also at the idea that human lives are worthless. Finally, to the question whether I'm pessimistic or optimistic, I answer my knowledge is pessimistic. My faith is optimistic. I'm pessimistic because I feel the full weight of suffering are all around me, not only of humanity, but all of creation. I've never tried to withdraw myself from the community of suffering. It seems to me a matter of course that we should all take our share of the burden of pain that lies upon this world. Even as a boy, it was clear to me that no explanation of evil in the world could ever satisfy me. I felt all explanations had no other object than to minimize our sensitivity to the pain around us. I can never agree with the conclusion of a thinker like Leibniz that although the world is not good, it is the best that is possible. I've always held firmly to the thought that each one of us can do something to bring some portion of pain and suffering to an end. I'm also pessimistic about the world's situation today. I cannot persuade myself that it is better than it appears, and yet I remain optimistic. A belief from childhood I've preserved with certainty is a belief in the truth, and I'm confident that the spirit generated by the truth is stronger than any circumstances, and therefore I do not believe we have to tread the road to ruin to the very end. Because I have the confidence in the power of truth, I believe in the future of mankind. In my own life, I've had times of trouble, anxiety, and sorrow so overwhelming that had my spirit not been strong, I might have broken down under the weight. On reflection, I've not had much of a life for myself, but I've had blessings too. That I'm allowed to work in the service of compassion, that my work has been successful and I've received affection and kindness in abundance, and I've had loyal helpers to help me and who consider my work as their own, and that I can recognize happiness I feel and accept it as a gift. I'm also very grateful that I've had the opportunities to pursue my spiritual, academic, and musical interest. I hope to prove worthy of my blessings. My hair is now gray, my body showing the sign of the exertion that I've demanded of it over the years. Yet I look forward to the future with calmness and humility, so that I may be prepared for the renunciations that lie ahead of me. Whether we are in health or in suffering, we must find the courage of those who have struggled to achieve the peace that passeth all human understanding. Again, my Unitarian brothers and sisters, thank you for allowing me to share my philosophy and life's work. So I've shared the words of Albert Schweitzer. Is Schweitzer asking us to not weed our garden, swat a fly, or become a vegetarian as he became? No, I don't think so. I believe he is asking this. But he reminds us of the need for reverence for all life, even that which may seem lower and worthless in our opinion. And that could, of course, be the weed. I close by returning to the words earlier of Chief Standing Bear. The Lakota knew that man's heart, away from nature, becomes hard. He knew that a lack of respect for growing things, living things, soon led to a lack of respect for humans too. Amen and reverence. Peace be upon you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe, for that timely sermon. This church is self-sustaining, and your financial support is very much appreciated. The baskets will now be passed here in the sanctuary for the offering. If you're watching on the Toledo Unitarians YouTube channel, please use the QR code on the screen, or you can also give using Venmo at First Unitarian Church of Toledo if you are here or watching on the YouTube channel. We are very grateful for your contributions.
May peace
We now come to the coming soon portion of the service where we make some announcements about future events coming up in the church. So I don't know if you want to start, Karen, or get some. Let me get that here. Here's some.
Oh, okay. So next Sunday for the 11 a.m. service will be Keith Racy speaking.
And I do have, excuse me,
Okay.
I do have the topic, what I learned from dying on stage.
Okay. And next Sunday at the 9:45 forum will be a poetry discussion led by Terry McCauley.
Okay, and I want to let you know that in upcoming events, we have the Saturday, August 15th, Toledo Unitarians Toledo Pride Parade. And I believe if you see David Strickler, he can give you more details. I don't know if David's here today, but that's the Toledo Pride Parade, August 15th. And I don't know if you want to do that one.
Community dining will have Thai cuisine at Rose Thai, 5333 Monroe Street. The date is Thursday, July 23rd, and the time is 5:30 p.m. Attendance is limited to 20 people, and a 20% gratuity will be added to each check because we have a large group. To reserve a spot, email Tim Reichard at tareichard@aol.com or text at his phone number.
And the last announcement here is to make sure I invite everybody to Fellowship Hall immediately after the service for coffee and conversation. Please join us down there. Okay, so now I'm going to recite the traditional version of the Golden Rule as Karen extinguishes our flame. So please join me. It is in your order of service. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
May you go with your minds open. May you go with your hearts full. May you carry the peace you feel through the spinning wheel of days. And remember that this web of love extends as far as your hand. So